You're listening to the Monday Night Community Show with Daniel on BRFM.
This is the Daniel Monday Night Community Show on demand through YouTube. Thank you very much for choosing to listen to us through this method. If you'd like to keep up to date with when I add new interviews, then subscribe to this channel. John from the Sheerness Town Team, as always, it's great to have you here in the studio.
Thank you, Daniel. Nice to be back.
So before we start, I was just hoping you could refresh our listeners into what the Town Team is.
That's a very good question. Town Team is basically a group of volunteers who want to make Sheerness a better place, both for shopkeepers and businesses and also for shoppers. So we are trying to promote the area, to encourage independent traders to come in, to open up shops, although luckily enough we don't have an awful lot of empty shops, unlike many towns. People come into to Sheerness, and some have moaned, but realistically, you know, we're doing very well. In fact, I don't know whether I told you, but a while back I did a town audit to find out exactly what type of shops we've got. And I compared it to Whitstable, which is a really good example of a thriving seaside town. And I discovered that we've got about 80% of the same shops as Whitstable. We've got independent butchers, we've got greengrocers, we've got clothes shops. So that's and of course we've got the nail shops, whatever they do. I haven't actually gone into one yet to get my nails polished, but that's probably something to do on Saturday. The things we haven't got are, and they're quite obvious, I suppose, restaurants. We've got some good cafes, and they do really good sort of meals, value for money meals. But if you want a different type of dinner or supper, you've got to go far and wide for that. So we're trying to address that. We're trying to encourage other independent restaurants to come in, and I think we've just got planning permission for, I don't know, it's still going through planning at the moment with Swale Council, but there is an application to have a Chinese buffet restaurant. So although we've got quite a few Chinese takeaways, I don't think we've got anywhere, unless you know better, Matthew, I don't think we've got anywhere in Sheerness where you can sit down and have a Chinese meal. There's one at Halfway, isn't there?
Yes, yeah, there is, yeah, but I don't think there is in the high street, no.
Yeah. Having said that, we've had a really excellent success in, is it Hope Street? No. Where's the Cottage of Curiosities?
Rose Street.
Right, but just opposite the Cottage of Curiosities, there's a new Thai restaurant which has opened. Have you tried that?
No, I haven't, but I did notice it had reopened. I think it had been closed down, had it? But I noticed it looked like it was been reopened.
Yes, it was. What was it? It was a kind of a restaurant takeaway before, and then it closed down. And the new lady, she is absolute a sweetheart. Lila, I think her name is Lila. She's a Thai lady. It's been on Sheppey for about 15 years, I think. Come over with her daughter as well. Used to work in one of the Checkmate. You know Checkmate at the end of New Road?
Right, yep.
Yeah, it's the one that does sort of strappings for ships and lorries and what have you. But she was a machinist there for a long time. Always had a dream of opening her own sort of Thai restaurant. Never thought she'd get the opportunity. But she's just managed to, her new partner has invested in buying the shop. They've completely renovated it. And it's only a weeny little shop. It seats, how many covers? I don't know. You're going to be pushed to get 10 in there, I would have thought. But they do the most exquisite takeaways. The only thing I would say is if you, and this is a free publicity for us, so I'll get told off by your bosses here, but she's on her own. basically. She's got somebody working the counter. She does all the cooking herself, gets it all fresh every day. Does mean that if you're in a hurry, you're going to have to wait for it to be cooked for you. So my absolute advice is call her first of all, put the booking in, and then that gives her about half an hour, 20 minutes to cook for you. And then while you're waiting, you can sort of pop to one of the pubs, somewhere like that.
I was going to say, it's always nice when it's cooked fresh. I know that with fish and chips, if you go in there and they quickly dish it up and it's been sitting there, and you think, another time you go in and they've got nothing there and they have to cook it fresh, and I always say, well, I'd rather wait. They sort of worry, do you want to wait? But I'd rather always wait and have it cooked fresh. It always is better.
Yes, I mean we've got quite a few sort of good fish and chip shops on the island, but the one that I often use is the one by the post office, Sheerness Post Office. Can't remember what it's called. It's not the Briny, but it's probably like ye oldie fish and chip shop, and they only cook to order. So again, like the Thai restaurant, you have to expect that you're going to wait sort of 10, 12 minutes, however long it takes to cook a cod or whatever you want, but I go in there. Luckily they got newspapers on the counter, so I can spend a good sort of 10 minutes reading the papers, and then it's superb fish and chips.
I think you're going to cover what's been happening recently.
Well, there's been a few things happening in Sheerness. One was the Promenade Festival, which I think, were you involved with?
Yeah, I've done bits of artwork on Sharp the Rose Street Cottage, and of course I went along to their launch and a few of their events. So yeah. Yeah, no,
that looked really good. I couldn't get to the launch, unfortunately, but I wanted to go along. But yeah, the Promenade Festival was organised in the town. It wasn't actually a town team event, but we tried to support it and help. We got some bunting up as well. Did you see the parade, Daniel?
No, that was one of the things I didn't get along to, but I see some photos and it did look fantastic.
Yeah, the organisers did a really great job. But at the end of the parade, there was a parade of sort of flight. The theme this year was flight, and I was expecting lots of weird flying machines, but instead there were sort of animals with wings and things. And at the end there were these sort of it was called a murder of crows, because obviously that's the common noun, plural noun for a group of crows, and they were the most, I think, frightening things I've seen for a long time. I don't know how many were there, but about 7 or 8, and they were men and women dressed all in black as crows, and they sort of swooped on these poor little children who went scurrying between their mum and dad's sort of legs, just sort of petrified, and then along came a scarecrow. It's the most strangest thing I've seen in Sheerness for an awful long time, but yeah, that was interesting. And then what have we done? This weekend that's just gone, we've had the Sheppey Pirates Festival. Again, it's not a town team event, but we support them and help promote them, and that was absolutely packed. That was at Barton's Point Coastal Park in Sheerness, sharing it with Santa Circus. Have you been to see the circus?
No, I haven't been actually. It's amazing seeing the tent going up. You can see it from quite a way actually. I think you can see it even from here if you look across. So
yeah, it's just a huge sort of big top, and because some of your listeners may know that I work for the Sheerness Times Guardian as well as a reporter there, and we did this lovely feature, I thought, last week of how the tent goes up, and had a stream of photographs, particularly on the web, of just seeing the tent go. I suppose once upon a time when the circus came into town, it was pulled up by elephants. Well, of course, you don't have animals in circuses anymore, at least you certainly don't at Santa Circus. So they had this forklift truck, which isn't quite as romantic, but I suppose much more reliable. And the lorry arrives in the field with kind of the top of the tent and the tent all packed underneath it, and then they pull it up on 4 wires, and it just goes up into the sky, and then they've got like the acrobats who I would have thought, you know, were stars of the show, and they wouldn't do anything, but they actually come out of their caravans and they scamper up the top, and they kind of knit the roof together. I couldn't possibly do that because I'm sort of scared of heights anyway, but I just thought it was an amazing thing to see. But that was so we were sharing that with the Sheppey pirates, and again on Saturday at 1 o'clock the pirates officially landed on the island to take over the sun-kissed Isle of Sheppey. Had a flotilla of rowing boats and paddle boards. Have you ever been on a paddle board, Daniel?
No, I've not actually.
I'm glad to say I was not there. I was kind of, sort of comparing from the stage, but the prospect to me balanced precariously on a paddle board. You don't want to go there, but the pirates did really well. So there was about 3 or 4 rowing boats donated by the Queenborough Rowing Club, and then there were lots of kayaks and canoes, and this flotilla of paddleboards. So all the pirates were trying to get ashore, and of course they couldn't get ashore because all the boys and girls, probably more than I've ever seen, a record crowd, 2,000 probably, just huge, heaving it was there, and they were sort of firing at the pirates with their water bombs, sort of balloons full of water. They had all these water pistols as well. It was just pandemonium. The whole sky went sort of white with water, but for great fun, and that's what it's all about. I think, you know, the entertainment on Sheppey these days is becoming first class, and as the town team, that's what we're trying to do to promote that, and I guess in a way to coordinate it so things don't clash. The next big event coming to Sheerness is the Sheppey Summer Carnival. That's on the 20th of August, so not this weekend, but the weekend coming up, Saturday. That should be really good. We're, for the first time for the carnival, we're closing the Broadway, Sheerness Broadway, so the carnival committee have got a few stalls there, and looking forward to seeing that. So yeah, it's looking good. And then the next event that the town team is actually doing is way into the future, in November, for the opening or the turning on of the Christmas lights. We've got a new contractor this year to help put them up, and we're going to be turning on the lights on Saturday the 26th of November. So that's a date for everybody's diary. Hopefully we'll have the Christmas market back in the High Street again. And just really looking for a really great sort of festive feel to get everybody in the mood for Christmas.
So we're joined in the studio with John. It's all part of our regular update from the town team, and I think we're going to cover future next.
Yes, I think what we have to look at now is what's going to happen after the town team sort of disappears. I mean, I'm hoping that it's not, but we've got our final tranche of money coming in from Swale Borough Council, which should take us to the end of this year, and under our terms we're supposed to spend it by then and sort it out. So there are a number of things we're trying to do. Obviously the Christmas lights switch on and putting those up will take a fair part of that. We're also hoping to floodlight the clock tower. Anybody who's been down to the clock tower recently, well, not so recently, will know that the uplighters in the ground haven't been working for as long as I can remember, and they're looking a little bit dangerous now because some of the protective hoods have gone missing. They've gone walkabout. So we've had a quote in from a couple of people who would be able to put LED, light emitting diode sort of lights on there, which will change colour. remote controlled. So as it gets darker, the clock tower will light up slowly, and we can theme it. So I don't know, we can have sort of red, white, and blue, or we can have a blue, or we can have like a green for Christmas. So so we're looking at that. So hopefully we will be able to do that by the end of this year. But after that, we're just thinking, okay, there's still a lot of things to do for Sheerness. Excuse me. Particularly sort of making the town a little bit cleaner. We've been battling with Swale Council for a long time to get the pavements cleaned, to do what they call a deep clean, to really sort of scrub the pavements, get rid of the chewing gum, things like that, which will just make the town look a little bit more loved or loved. We've certainly put the flowers up, so we're paying for the flowers in the hanging baskets and the flowers in the big planters in the high street and around the clock tower. But there's a whole list of things we've done, and we've also done a town audit. There was 3 or 4 of us spent a Sunday morning just walking the town, noticing the pavements which were damaged, which need replacing, the barriers which need repainting and repairing, the benches which are in need of some loving care. So we've got a whole sort of shopping list, which we've now sent to Swale Borough Council and also to Kent County Council, which is looking after the highways, the streets. So we're doing that. It begs the question then, what happens after the town team goes? And one of the suggestions is that Sheerness is a prime candidate for its very own town council. Bit like Queenborough's got its own town council. Laysdown, Warden, Eastchurch have their own parish councils. Minster, which is where your studio is based, has its own parish council, very effective parish council, which monitors what's happening. It gets its own money from council tax. It does a precept every year, and it raises something like, this is Minster now, it raises something like £117,000, and it does that by asking residents to pay, depending on the size of their homes, somewhere in the region of about £25 to £50 a year. And that sort of money, it means that the council, the parish council, the town council can use that to set its own priorities, to decide where they're going to spend the money, how they're going to spend the money. And it gives the residents more control, gives them more ownership of what's happening in the town. So the first stage of that is to get a petition. And with Sheerness, it needs at least 7.5% of people eligible to vote in Sheerness to sign that petition, which means cool numbers, about 1,200 needs to sign that. They have to be over 18, obviously, because you have to be over 18 to vote, and they have to live in Sheerness. So it's not a question of people from Laysdown or Minster saying, "Hey, you need a town council." It's really down to the people of Sheerness. We've got support. Obviously, the town team thinks it's a good idea because it creates some longevity. Really, it allows a relatively independent body to decide how to spend the money long term, and I think that's ideal for somewhere like Sheerness, particularly because it's a seaside town, and it doesn't look like a seaside town, to be honest. There's a few shops desperately trying to sell buckets and spades, but when you think it's just 200 or 300 yards from the beach, an award-winning beach, I would have expected most of the shops to be selling things like that. When we've had the really hot weather, and it's still hot at the moment, but the last couple of weeks it's been piping down there. I couldn't find a shop that sold soft ice cream, those sort of 99s. But plenty that's selling lollies. You can go up to Janet's shop on the seafront, that little sort of sort of stall, I suppose. She does wonderful sort of ice creams there, but there's nobody, unless you know different, Daniel. I don't think there's a shop that sells sort of 99s. Do you?
No, I don't think there is. No.
Right. So there's things like that which need addressing. So the first stage is to get this petition. Now, Brian Spohr is a retired businessman. He used to own Brian's Electricals, and he's taken this to heart. He was out on Saturday on one of the town team barrows by the clock tower with a petition trying to get signatures. In the space of a few hours, he's got 350 names already on there. So that's really promising. There is a petition, hard copy, in our own offices at the Sheerness Times Guardian at 44 High Street. There is an online petition going live very shortly, and as soon as I get all the information for that, if you don't mind, I'll tell you that, Daniel, so you can pass it on to the listeners.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Now, it doesn't commit anybody to anything at this stage. All it needs is those sort of 1,000 odd names to then go to Swale Borough Council. Swale Borough Council is what's known as the primary authority, and with a petition like that, it will be able to hold it's like a local government review. They decide yes or no that there is a possible demand for a town council, and then they will hold a referendum. Probably fed up with having referendums at the moment, but it means that everybody eligible in Sheerness can vote, whether they want it or not. And I've already gone through the benefits, which are some more independence. You can get Sheerness looking better, and it's not just for the town centre. We're talking about the seafront as well, the beach fields, the back roads. The back roads, there are some which desperately need resurfacing. Marine Parade is hell to park. I don't know how the residents survive there. If you go down Marine Parade after work at like 6 or 7 o'clock at night, the cars are parked, squeezed in like sardines. It's the responsibility of KCC Highways, but with a town council, you have that sort of extra strength and power to actually push the people that should be doing it into action. Not everybody, I have to say, is in favour. Retired Councillor Steve Worrell, Labour councillor, very well respected on the island, and an honorary alderman. He is dead against it. He said it's just another tier of government. You can't expect residents to dig into their pockets anymore. He said that it needs a body to make sure that the existing councillors are doing their job, both on Swale Borough Council and the county councillors. That's Angela Harrison, who's Labour, and Adrian Crowther, who's UKIP. So he's got a valid point there. I would argue that they've had a number of years to prove that they could do it, and I haven't seen much to show for it. I could be proved wrong, but the difficulty with Swale Council, and I've got a lot of time and a lot of respect for all the officers and the councillors who are trying to do the best they can, but it's split three ways. The money has to go between Sheppey, Faversham and Sittingbourne, and Sheerness just seems to be the long lost sort of cousin which doesn't seem to get its fair fair dues. So that's our argument. It's really not a political sort of battle. It's not sort of UKIP versus Tories versus Labour. The argument is just what's best for Sheerness. Would it improve the town for everybody? That's the people who live there, the people who work there, the people who shop there. So that's where we are at the moment, and it's bringing everybody up to date. And I'd be interested in anybody's comments or contacting the town team, or of course letters to the Sheerness Times Guardian. Always happy to hear from people there.